might not know my story, but if you do, you know I should be dead.
Take it real soon. You know we got what you need, baby. So take it, move along. I said we got what you need, honey. Come and groove along. Come on. Rolling on the highway, ease up. Wow.
Growing up in the backcountry of upstate New York, I got my start in water sports. I guess you could say I was a calculated adrenaline junkie. My family and I loved adventures: skateboarding, boating, snowboarding, camping, fishing. You name it, we did it. At a young age, we moved to Florida. Between catching gators and being on the lake all the time, I quickly became a Floridian. The first time I tried wake skating, that was it for me. Before I knew it, all my dreams came true. I was sponsored by big brands like Nike and traveling the world doing what I loved. But honestly, there was still something missing. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but my life felt somewhat selfish, kind of meaningless. I thought, this can't be it. At the top of my career, the adventure was losing its satisfaction. Up to this point in my life, I'd never even broken a bone. Not after years of competing in all my crazy adventures. I knew my limits and calculated the risks. Or so I thought.
We're here just outside of Orlando, Florida at the 2012 Byerly Toe Jam. We've got the top wake skaters representing from all around the world.
All the best athletes in our sport would be there. I'd ridden here 100 times. I knew the lake well.
I saw his last trick, but I couldn't see what happened after it.
The lake was shaped like an hourglass, and as I was approaching the narrow section, one more trick.
And Matt Manzari setting up for his last trick of the pass. Can he squeeze it in? It's gonna be close to the shoreline. Folks, I'm not sure if he's gonna make it. Oh no.
And I saw everybody on the dock who could see it start freaking out, saying that Matt fell, and it wasn't just a fall, he hit the shoreline. So I immediately hopped in my truck and just floored it down there. And I saw that he was lying down, barely breathing, and the swelling hadn't started yet. So I could see that his face was caved in from the rocks. And it didn't look anything like that, and I was terrified because I thought he was gonna die. And they said, yeah, you guys can go back and talk to him. He's like, they had him on a bunch of pain medicine, but he'd just woken up. And I just saw him, and he just
My skull was shattered. My jaw, my tailbone, and hand were broken. Rebar punctured my leg, completely unconscious. Now I'm lying in a hospital.
When I walked in there for the first time and just caught his eye, and he was awake, and he just looked at me and gave me a thumbs up. You could just tell it was him. It was a big deal.
As the doctors performed incredible reconstructive surgery, my body began to heal. I graduated college and my life was back on track. Looking at me, you wouldn't know I almost died. So much good was coming out of my accident, and I was so excited to share my story.
Yeah, Matt came out, and he hadn't ridden in like 6 months because of his accident, and he came out, and Matt's like, all right, it's time for me to wake skate, and we were like, okay, go for it. And it was like he never had the accident at all. He just was riding just as good, if not better, than he was riding before.
Matt Manzari, a true Florida boy, hot-blooded through and through. He's here for competition and with one thing in mind.
I don't know that there was a defining moment for me until he asked me out that I was like, oh my gosh, Matt and I are gonna be together, because I didn't think he liked me very seriously. I was Bob, I was one of the guys. It was when he asked me out that I kind of freaked out and everything was said and done from there.
Matthew would, look at a situation, dip his toes in the water, think about it, and he was more like he would look at something he wanted to do, whether it was daredevilish or not, but he would actually create this in his mind. He would see it happening, he would figure out how he was going to do it, how he was going to make it work, and then he would do that. And that goes back to a very young age.
Oh, first time, baby! Yay, Matthew!
How much you want to bet he tries to ski out of the wake?
I bet you're right. How about that? I know Matthew.
Having a full recovery was a gift, one I'll never take for granted. I think I landed right about here, stepped off my board, and took like one step here, and then went into the rocks. But we never imagined what was to come. Kind of crazy looking at these rocks that I hit these at 30 miles an hour almost. Probably because, on full edge going 23, probably at least 30. It was only a year since I'd recovered. One day I was helping trim trees at a church. One minute, I was up in the high reach bucket. Next, I was waking up from a coma. Over 12,000 volts, arced over nearly 20 feet through the air, and grounded to the metal bucket I was in. The electricity flowed in through my hands, ran through my chest, and blew out the top of my head. I had 4th and 5th degree burns, which means it burned through the muscle tissue and part of the bone. At a minimum, that's the equivalent of hooking me up to 6 electric chairs. When they found me, they saw me laying in the floor of the bucket, nowhere near the tree or the power line. All 4 tires of the high reach had exploded and melted to the cement. In a coma, it was my loved ones that suffered the most.
Your brain can't comprehend what you're seeing because you're seeing like a living skeleton. That's the only way I could explain it. And you're looking at the muscles, and you're looking at the bones, and you're looking at the rib cage, and
Everything was black and charred, and it just didn't look human anymore, and he was just screaming.
Now the what ifs were not about careers, plans, or what's next. They were, is there next?
I was seeing him go away before my eyes, and they held me back, and they were like, no, it's too bad, don't let her see. And I I said, if I need to say goodbye, I need to say goodbye right now. And I knew he couldn't hear me, but I told him goodbye the best way I could, because I didn't see how a person could look like that and ever be back to being human again.
As a father, watching all these doctors and all this equipment, all these surgeries, you feel helpless. You know, I want to do something, and there's nothing I could do. This is so out of my realm of what I could handle.
And there were a lot of times that they were preparing me to say, hey, he's never gonna see his son.
We have people die every day and they wish they had more time. They have things they wish they said. It's not a matter of if, but when. The news I wish my wife never had to hear. The tears our parents never had to see. A son my mom and dad had lost. A widowed mother. My friends. The waiting room became a war room. Fear and hope, life and death. My room was more like a prison. Time was no longer counted by days, more like minutes, sometimes seconds. Doctors worked 24 hours to keep me alive. Nurses worked around the clock. My friends and family were forced to go to sleep.
I could look into his eyes and know what he's thinking. And I'm looking into his eyes and I see his fingers twitch a little bit. He wants to hold my hand. You know, he just wants to feel contact again. They have to remove his arms. They had to do this because the body was working too hard to try to keep them alive. And at that moment, I thought, what if I just missed the last opportunity to ever hold my son's hand when that's all he wanted? And now you're telling me tomorrow morning he's not going to have hands, he's not going to have arms? And I just wasn't having that. Here his wife is pregnant, and I'm thinking, Matt is going to want to hold his child. That's when they, I guess, came up with this plan B or whatever to bring in Dr. Llewellyn and do those other surgeries. And thank God they did, because that saved his arms.
One of my partners had already kind of initially done some operations on Matt's burn wounds to debride him, and he had very large open wounds basically down to the muscle, involving his arms and shoulders and chest. And we took him to the operating room that first day, and it was pretty impressive. I stood there for a few minutes wondering what we were going to do to close his wounds.
How could this person be alive? This doesn't make sense. And I remember the first time they took that first bandage off, I didn't know how I was going to handle it.
With most of the muscles in my upper body dying, the surgeries were to cut away the dead muscle and prevent infection. Dressing changes were 3 times a day. They would have to scrub on top of open muscle tissue and bone. Although it was the most unbearable pain, only my dad remembers them.
As a dad, you're watching your son be tortured. That's what it is. It's like watching someone be tortured for 2 hours straight. And then you knew it was happening again in 6 hours. You never get used to those screams. To this day, I could hear them.
My walls were filled with cards, notes, support letters from all over the world. Not alone anymore. I was fueled by so much love.
I don't think they ever expected it, and then all of a sudden Matt did start coming around, in that, 2nd to 3rd month time frame. And then you start seeing people be a little bit hopeful, like, there's something different here.
When you're in a hospital room for months, those 4 walls become a prison. The littlest things mean so much. I'll never forget the first time I was able to give someone a hug. I gave my dad a hug and I never wanted to let go. My physical therapist and my wife snuck me outside. I wasn't allowed yet. As soon as they wheeled me out the door, I remember so clearly as the wind hit my legs, just bursting into tears, because I felt human again. I didn't feel like a machine. I didn't feel like just a product that was being worked on day in and day out. I felt real. I realized the little things we take for granted, like human touch, the smell of being outside, feeling of the wind, all of the gifts that we experience every day but never notice.
Do you want to take this or do you want me to?
Weeks became months. Hurdles overcame. Setbacks behind me. I wasn't giving up.
He was different than a lot of patients that I've ever had. Not one time did he say, like, I feel bad for myself. Like, I'm not going to get out of this. And that made me want to work, that much harder to take care of someone like him. And Matt's a big picture guy. Our goal was to set up little goals for him. I wanted him to be able to play his guitar. I wanted him to be able to dance with Bobbye Jean. I wanted him to be able to hold his baby.
You're doing so well. Look up. There you go.
Oh, look at that posture. Come on. I think a lot of times he might have taught me a little bit more, helped me a little bit more than I helped him, and that's pretty incredible.
I realized I could be a miserable, bitter, defeated person, and it wasn't going to make me less electrocuted. It wasn't going to take the pain and the surgeries away. So, love you guys, and I'll see you on the other side. It wasn't going to change the reality that this might be it. If I was going to die, I was going to be remembered for who I was. I was going to spend every day pouring into my loved ones, fighting with everything I have. And at least if I die, I died me. Faced with my own battle of time and pain, my perspective, my focus, my hope was becoming all that I had. It's hard to see a light at the end of the tunnel. It feels lonely. My identity as a professional wake skater wasn't enough. Having my world flipped upside down twice wasn't about me. My purpose and value isn't in what I do for a job or how successful I become. The first time I looked into my son's eyes, I felt so much love. Overwhelming love. I thought about my dad looking at me, lying there suffering, broken, bleeding, wanting so badly for me to be okay, but feeling helpless. When Jesus was on the cross, God, his Father, allowed that to happen because he loves us that much. Does the love I have for my sons, the love my dad has for me, even compare to the love he has for us? My value and identity are in him. My scars don't compare to his. My pain doesn't come close to his. His love is unconditional. His power is made perfect in my weakness. In him, I'm a new creation. Getting home and looking into the mirror for the first time, I realized the old me is gone.
First day of school.
The new me I like. It's just getting to know him. Bobbye Jean, when our journey began, we never imagined it would be this hard. It should have ripped us apart. We came together. Our life and world was in shambles. You were stronger than I ever imagined. I'm sorry for the burden you had to carry. Sorry for the role you had to take and the price you had to pay. I'm sorry you had to put your needs aside. I'm sorry. Never imagined you'd almost lose me while being pregnant with our first child. Never imagined I'd have scars and pain for the rest of my life. Seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, knowing we will never be who we were, but looking toward who we will be. It's clear he's been working in spite of the challenges. He's revealed his goodness. Thank you, God. You've always been there, always had a bigger picture. When we look to you, we realize we are all part of a much bigger story. You tell your story through us. If only we could see beyond our walls, we'd see the creator of it all. You. What's going on? It's been 1,054 days since I've been on the water, and I'm a little nervous, really excited. It means a lot to me. I didn't think I'd get emotional. I went, grabbed my board, threw it in my truck, and as soon as I did that, it was just like, I don't know, I never knew if I was going to do that again, and I just broke down, and I just feel really blessed.